lose weight for the big vacation, the cruise, the reunion, and keep it off. So you guys know I lost 140 pounds 6 years ago, and I'm here in beautiful maintenance land with a message to you about how you're going to lose and maintain. Let's discuss. We've all done it. We've used the fire of the reunion, of the cruise, to lose a bunch of weight, and then it just comes right back, okay? How many times have you done it? Leave us a comment. Okay, so a lot of you are going to know about how to lose. And so my focus is going to be on the maintenance part. But a quick note on the losing part. The way of eating that we embrace here at Eat Like a Bear is highly specific. It's effective, it's distinct, and it will bridge you into maintenance, which means this is not a fad diet that you just do and then stop doing after you've gotten your losses and then you just kind of ratchet back to where you were. This is something that you use to then incorporate into the way of eating that you're going to do in maintenance. And so one of the problems that I know I had in the past in like losing weight for that special event is I might tend to go on something like a fad diet, a diet that I really didn't intend to continue. And so, for instance, a noted one is the military diet, which is just a 3-day diet anyway. And you can do 3 days back to back to back. You can lose a lot of weight. It's a highly calorie restricted diet. It's very formulaic. You could do that. I have never met anyone and can't imagine anyone who would then do that for the rest of their lives. But in fact, what I did to lose the 140 pounds, I ate one giant meal. I loved the meal. It was delicious. Yes, I was restricted, but that's what you need to do to lose the big amount of pounds. But the meal itself was highly flexible, adaptable. I ate cooked versions. I mixed and matched flavors and all of that. I got my variety in. I got all the nutrients in it. It didn't really cut out anything in particular. It was low in carbohydrates and of course calorie minded. That meal approach, I'm still doing it. I'm still doing it modified for maintenance. So my first note to you is get your eating approach on point. You're obviously going to need to do that to lose the weight for that reunion or whatever it is. So I've been thinking about this a lot because I currently have a little deadline myself and I have about 40 days to just get a lot more fit to increase my endurance. And it is amazing when you have that deadline, how much fire you can manage if you work at it. If you really intend to leverage it, use it as your opportunity to just get in and crush it. You can really lose a whole lot of weight. It is crazy. It is amazing. So do that. If you're a Deep Den member, we have a whole section on like the issues of getting started, of, things like setting your intentions and getting your pantry in order and all that, getting your head ready up here so that you can launch into this season of weight loss. And I would encourage you to look at those materials if you have access. But in any case, really set your intentions and get going. But the event is coming up. Maybe you have 38 days left. Consider really ratcheting down, getting more strict in the 8 days, and then doing a whole 30-day challenge for yourself or a 90-day challenge or whatever it is that you have time for. Leverage this to get some massive weight loss. And so then you go to the event all svelte. And this is where it falls apart for people. Now, I want you to think about how you've done this in the past, because what we do here with, any kind of weight loss is what we always need to be looking at is the next time, how are we going to do it a little bit better? And so we all tend to handle it in this way. We might go on that crash diet, whatever it is, lose a lot of weight, show up like in the new dress or whatever it is, and then, drink, party, whatever, then just kind of ratchet back into life as it was. And oh my gosh, I gained all the weight back. Well, of course you did. Because you're doing the same things that caused you to gain the weight in the first place. And it's so obvious, but you really need to set your intention to do it differently this time. And that might start at the event itself. Maybe you're not going to go all out in the eating and drinking at that event. I mean, you can. You totally can. I will tell you that really going hog wild is going to make transitioning back a little bit harder. If you're willing to pay the price to go through that extra hard work, eat all the stuff. If you're willing to have to like grind off that 10 pounds that you just gained at the event, go for it. It's really up to you, however you want to manage it. I just find that it's easier for just to sort of all these things in my life to just keep it all in a little bit more of a boundary. And so I just wouldn't tend to eat and drink as much as my old self would. Where you draw the boundary, it's really up to you. Because the big point is to really have that intention and the plan for the dismount, for the exit from that event, so that you can launch back into some of the skills that you had maintained in those 30 days or in those 90 days that got you there. I would make plans well in advance of the event of the things you are making sure that you incorporate in your life in the days when you come back. I would have a very hard exit date for whatever debauchery you end up engaged in. Say, like, this is the moment that I cut this off and I start afresh. Because what really happens at those events, you start tasting all that stuff and you want more. We all want more. We're tasting it. We want more. That's natural. That's normal. And so where are you going to draw the boundary? Make the decision in advance. It could be to indulge at the wedding dinner, but by breakfast the next day, you're back on. Or maybe you say, you know what, but there's a lot of family stuff happening with the dinner and then the breakfast. And so it's when I get on the plane, like literally walking to the airport, I have a plan, and it is a new season and a new day, and I'm beginning my new thing. You need to make that decision in advance, because if you make it on the fly, you very likely are not going to make the very best decision that you can for yourself. In fact, think about how you've done this in the past. Really think through it. Make comments for us here. Maybe it was that, well, yeah, I did really hope to maintain my weight, but then gosh, the cake and the beer and whatever else, and then those amazing rich omelets the next day, I just kept going to restaurants, and when I got back home, there were some other restaurants I really wanted to try, and I thought, why not just keep trying those? It just, led to 6 months later, 60 pounds later, here I am again. Make a comment. It's important that we look back on these past events. It's our learning. So it's not in the spirit of, shame, regret, remorse. It is our learning. We are trying to make our next event easier and better than the prior. And so for me this summer, I knew I wanted to really get in hard and to lose a few more pounds. So I'm up from my low of 140. One problem is that I'm not at such a high weight that I actually care that much about it. So it's kind of hard to get that fire. Well, I ended up with a deadline, and I was like, whoa, a deadline. This is like having the cruise or whatever else it is. And so how can I take advantage of this and really use it? And it's kind of amazing to me, because on my day one, I'm on, this is day 4. On my day one, I just really launched into a very formulaic way of eating, because I know what works for me. And I'm doing the same thing basically that I did in the 30-day challenge, where I was down 17 pounds. That is crazy. You should watch that. So I'm leaning hard into the salad kits. I'm doing my 1 meal a day thing. I'm doing all that. I'm doing what I know works. And I'm doing it with huge fire because I have a deadline. And I am being even more mindful than I have in the past about, are there any little new habits that I want to take from these days myself and integrate. And so one of the things that I'm doing, oh my gosh, is I am actually giving up coffee in this season right now. I'm going to 0, which I could not imagine weeks ago. I've been talking lately about how much I do need to cut back, and I do. I'm actually going to 0. And so I'm highly reflective on whether with the event, I'm then after the event, if I'm going back to a smaller amount of coffee, if I'm staying at 0, or how it is that I'm going to keep some of those coffee gains in my pocket. And I'm not sure. It's a time for reflection. And so you too, in your own 30 days, in your 90 days, and whatever it is that you're doing, it is a time for reflection about what you're going to be doing after that event, the kinds of gains that you're going to keep in your pocket and leverage for the future. And by the way, this sort of discussion right here is exactly the sort of discussions we have every single day in the Deep Den member area. So that is a member-funded area that is loaded with discussions like this. There is a whole content library. You could land in there today and land into, I think, 40 videos about mostly about strategy and food psychology. So how are we going to beat the donut? If the donut is our foe, and it is, or the equivalent, the chips, whatever our foe is, how are we going to beat it? How are we going to beat it to get to the life we want to live? Look at me. This is a life I could not have conceived of 8 years ago, which is the very first time in my life I actually asked myself, how are you going to maintain your weight? And my life has changed.